For decades there has been one name that has dominated the JDM landscape. A car so synonymous, so famous and so good that it was dubbed the name Godzilla. Well, unfortunately, Godzilla's roar has finally fallen silent as Nissan have closed their doors to the GTR in the R35 guise, and its future not looking so good. With the final page being turned of the book of the GTR with the R35 legacy, the question that we want to really be thinking and trying to recommend to people and talk about in this video is, with the factory doors closed, is now the time to buy one of the R35 GTRs. So the Skyline and the GTR name has been well known for many years, and in this guise since 2008, with only production stopping this year. A 17-year lifespan for one of the most well-known accessible supercars of its time. What's super unique about this one is the fact it's only 2 owners from new and completely standard top to bottom, exactly as Nissan intended it to be. There's so much to speak about with these, there's so much potential, there's so much that's current going on with this GTR with them ending production. So I think rather than talk here, let's go out on the road, go out for a drive, and I'll explain a bit more. Rightio, so out in our R35 GTR. And what are my first impressions? Well, first impressions, I've got to say, it feels fab. There really is something so special about it, but so normal at the same time. I think the GTR badge, the name, the heritage, the Godzilla tag that it gets, you know, which is a very aggressive name. It's a synonymous name. You know, Godzilla is not a fairy. It's not a big friendly giant that you can give a cuddle. So, you know, it's out there to be a scary beast, something that's intimidating, okay? And I think when I'm driving the car in normal mode, in fact I might actually put it in comfort for a minute, it's brilliant. I could absolutely daily drive this car. I'm not having to raise my voice. I've got half sensible miles per gallon at mid-20s. I've got air conditioning. I've got my heated seats. I've got nav, although it's probably a little bit outdated now, cruise control and all those other fabulously boring bits that which we need and expect in any modern day car. The history of the Skyline and then the GTR name is probably quite a strange one. I don't think a lot of people understand how the name and the identity of the car started back in the 1950s. Everybody, when they talk about a Nissan GTR, an R32, 33, 34, 35, that's really where most people's car knowledge starts, with this brand, with this model. But actually the Skyline name started in 1957. And in 1957 Nissan were actually called the Princess Motor Company, and at the time the Skyline was a 4-door family car with a 1.5 litre engine, and whilst it was quite a pretty little thing, an endearing little car, it's certainly not what it's become to be now. And I thought that was really quite interesting. But later on, and actually not far afterwards, I think about 2 years or so, Princess Motor Company and Nissan essentially became one, and Nissan was the new name for that brand. But the Skyline continued. And in 1969, the Skyline GTR came out, and it came out in a 4-door, and very slightly afterwards in a 2-door. Now that car is probably the most prestigious for people that are into their classic Japanese JDM scene in the Hakosuka. The Hakosuka car was one absolute beast of a car. It was so revolutionary for so many reasons. It really was. Now that car, if you show someone one today, they'll probably still recognise it as being quite an early GTR and a very, very well-renowned, aesthetically pleasing car from the 60s with that JDM mark of it. So the Hakosuka, when it came out, it was pretty revolutionary, and it probably wasn't a car that many people in Britain knew about, or even the States. It was very, very much for the Japanese market and for the Japanese people. But the car itself was incredibly sophisticated, and you've got to remember in 1969, you know, late 60s, early 70s, these cars that we were producing and what the Americans were producing cars with massive engines, very low brake horsepower, probably sounded good, but they weren't particularly sophisticated, nor were they particularly good in terms of handling. We were producing things like the Austin Princess and things like that, and those kind of cars for a similar kind of money, let's be honest, they were pretty crap and pretty boring. But the Hakosuka was a 2-litre straight 6, or an inline 6, and that engine produced between 150 and 160 horsepower, depending on the year and the variant. Now, that, for a very small and light car, is pretty impressive for lots of reasons. But the thing that they did really, really well, and this is why I love the Japanese and their sort of engineering practices and premise really, is they gave it a limited slip differential, so very, very focused from a handling and drivability perspective. And they also gave it very advanced McPherson strut suspension with double links, wishbone and all those kinds of things, which you did see in other cars of that era, but it was very rare and certainly not for a 4-door family-derived car. So it was hugely revolutionary, and it really, really did set that name, that it got the fire burning. It really did. And then it paved that way rather for the GTR brand to become as big as it now is and has continued to be. If I fast forward to the R32 GTR, that's something that I know quite a lot about because I actually owned one and I loved it. I really did. I absolutely loved that car. Now, it came about because a good friend at the time had an R34 GTR, or had owned an R34 GTR, and I couldn't really afford one at the time, and having looked at the trajectory of how the R34 had sort of appreciated and the stats and everything else, I thought, right, I'm going to look for an R33. And he said, don't buy a 33 unless you're buying the special models, the 400s and such. You're not going to ever have a car that's really, really desirable. That's changed a little bit now, but when I bought it to when I sold it, I think I made the absolute right decision. I really did. I paid around about £11,000, and I was the first custodian of the car when it came in from Japan. So I was very, very proud. It was a massive deal for me, and my wife actually found the car for me, so I'm massively in debt to her for that. So a little bit more about the earlier GTRs very quickly. The RB26 engine, or the RB26 DETT, was a 2.6 6-cylinder twin turbo engine, and that engine was in the R32, the 33 and the 34, which is what everybody lusts after in the Fast and the Furious films. Too Fast, Too Furious. Paul Walker had the R34 GTR and was an absolute beast of a car. It really, really was. Most people know, but not everybody, so I'm going to mention it, is that the brake horsepower of those cars were always under a gentleman's agreement in Japan. The gentleman's agreement was that no car could have more than 286 horsepower in its standard form and produced by a mass manufacturer. Now, a lot of people said that they produced a lot more, and I think they probably did, but it gives you a bit of an idea as to the kind of setup that these cars were. They were very lightweight, they were very technologically advanced. Their 4-wheel drive systems and 4-wheel steer were absolutely revolutionary and made it into a fantastic driver's car for so many reasons. And the R35 GTR was the first car since that line of cars that changed the engine and changed the setup, and that is why it's such a big, prominent and special car. So the R35's driveline, the engine, the beating heart of this crazy car. Its code, its name, its birth certificate, if you will, is the VR38 DETT. And these cars all varied in their brake horsepower, and they only varied in their brake horsepower simply because they were hand built, and tolerances set up and how they ran in and everything else, and their optimizations done by Nissan and specialists will always vary in the standard brake horsepower in the car. But at 500 to 550 horsepower or so, depending on the year, they are absolutely ridiculous in the way that they drive. The power, the way that the four-wheel drive system and the grip and everything else works is just absolutely monumental in so many ways. So Dan knows these really, really well, and to my knowledge Dan's was standard power. I think he put a Y pipe up on the exhaust, but from a power and drive perspective it was exactly the same. So I think what I'd like to do is go back, pick him up, get him in here, get some feedback from him, and just talk about how he feels about it now, 15 plus years on. Right, so I've pulled back up at work, had a chat with Dan, and I pulled him down, the big lad, to come down and really just go through some of the things that I wanted to ask him, because he's had one, because you had one. How old were you when you had it? I said you were like 21.
Yeah, it was just 21, I think.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Well, maybe 20, just before 21.
Yeah, I said 2021.
Either way, it was around that sort of age. April 2012.
Yeah. Do you still remember it pretty good or not? Do you remember it?
Yeah, because it was the biggest jump in terms of performance out of any cars I've had, I would say.
Yeah.
In terms of the way it could put the power down, and it was just so futuristic in terms of all the systems for handling.
Yeah. Yeah.
You obviously you probably remember when I took you out near Rugby down some lanes.
Exactly.
Exactly. We had that orange 67 plate. I think it was a Prestige model, and that was a lot more refined. I'd just say this feels much more race car, more thoroughbred. It's like I say, much stiffer. You get a lot more mechanical noises all around the car, which has sort of been toned down a bit in the newer ones.
But I kind of like that in it though.
Yeah.
It makes it fun, I think.
It makes it more of a toy. The newer ones feel
special,
more of a daily.
100%. Because we also had Adam's white track edition. That was a facelift car. That was a 17 model year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that was and was that a stage 1? Was that just had a map on it?
Yeah, just stage 1 and white pipe.
That's it. Yeah.
Much 99% of people that seem to buy GTRs do at least that, and then get on the slippery slope. And
this is kind of what I was saying. That's why it was so rare to get in one of this. You know, it's completely standard sounding with no wide pipe, no mapping or anything. Was yours standard apart from a wide pipe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, standard power. There was no gearbox software update really around then. I think that came in around 2013.
Yeah.
So yeah, just the white pipe, which I bought second hand off eBay for about 150 quid if I remember, and it made such a difference.
It did make a difference.
It made it a lot louder. From what I remember, they're quite smooth power still, until you go to like 900 horsepower, like the blue one that I bought back from Aberdeen.
Spoke about it.
Which again, that was too much. Even with like a big brake kit, it was.
And this is what
stupid.
I said. In a straight line, yeah, great. But you can have loads of cars go fast in a straight line. But for me, the platform, that's what feels so good about this, is that it can just handle everything really, really easily, can't it? So what I was going to say, whilst we're out, should we pop up to Adam's, because he's got a 2018?
Yeah, I think it's stage 4.5. We'll ask him. I know it was already it was very tuned when he bought it, but he's still gone and done a few more bits to it. So I've just popped over to Adam's house, a long-term friend and customer of the business. He's had a couple of GTRs off us. This car really stood out because of the amount of modifications. So wanted to sort of know more about the car. What made you buy this one?
What made me buy this one really was that everything had been done and recorded from Lichfield, which you always know is going to be a good thing. It was a track edition again, which I really like. If you can't have a full Nismo, I think the track editions the one to have. They're very rare, and there's not many of them. And having a track edition before, just wanted to get back in one. I was pretty gutted when I sold the last one, even though the price had gone up so much, it was silly not to keep it.
Yeah. What's this running now engine wise?
This is running the 4.5 Litchfield, but it's got loads of other stuff as well, like the handling kit, suspension, bigger brakes.
Ceramic calipers.
Yeah, ceramic calipers. It's a fully forged engine. It's got the bigger race intercoolers, anti-roll bars. It's literally had everything done. I think that the bills are close to £100,000 on the car now, which is
and that's just
ridiculous.
like we've got. There's a couple of other customers I know that have got him a chap that we bought a few bits off, and the money he spent, like he's literally spent what you could buy a house with on one, and it's a total weapon. It's quite a slippery slope, the modifications on when you start modding these GTRs. I find anyone that once they go to that stage 1 from a standard GTR, they just can't stop at that. Yeah, it just ends up getting carried away.
It's amazing because a lot of cars you modify, you really struggle when you put big power through them to, cope with the handling and the performance and usually the braking. Yeah. But these things just lap it up. Yeah. So, I mean, this is the fastest car I've ever had, and one of the fastest cars I've ever been in, and it scares me, yet it just hooks up and goes. But from the standard one I had before, pretty much, you have just as much fun in both. The performance, they're rough as old nails, clunky, but it's just a proper race car.
So, seeing as the one we've come over in is totally standard, I just wanted to see through all the little bits and bobs that are different on this one compared to when it was new.
Yeah, so this has had like a big overhaul, so engine out.
Yep.
I think the guy had it done when it was new.
Oh, Jeremy Payne built the engine?
Do you know Jeremy? So it's a fully forged engine by Litchfield, dated gearbox, but that's just software, so no.
That's had that in fact, although that's totally standard. Most people did the software because I know it's good for the hardware.
That makes a big difference to all the cars. And then it's got, as you can see, it's got the bigger pipes, bigger injectors, 1,000 horsepower injectors. It's got the blow-offs. It's got all race intercoolers as well, which you can't see, and basically everything else.
Like I see, it's running some trick suspension by the looks of the top.
Yeah, it's a fully adjustable freeway suspension. The guy that owned this car originally basically used it for European track days, so he had it set up perfect. And to be honest, the suspension on the original track with because it had all bonded arms, isn't it? Different from the original.
To make it stiff. I don't know the exact figures, but I know it with the track edition stiffer than the standard car.
But that handled brilliant. But with this freeway as an improvement is incredible. So it handles like insanely.
I love the colour coding on the engine as well.
Yeah, see, I'm not a massive fan of the blue, but it does look good. They've done a nice job of it.
We all love it, but the actual owner of the car doesn't like the colour of it.
But and it's got all the anti-roll bars. It's got obviously a huge, I think it's a 105 full Litchfield exhaust system.
And then brake-wise.
Yeah.
Brake-wise, it's had the carbon ceramics on.
Yeah,
it's got ceramic calipers, but then they've put it back to like steel conversions.
Yeah,
but kept the bigger calipers.
So it's got the Alcons, which I think is a 35 grand upgrade. Originally back in the day, but it's got the steel brakes now. He used to do a lot of track days, and I think he just didn't want to wreck the carbon ones, but when I purchased the car it just had the steels on it, so I've kept them. But the brakes are fantastic, but they are on the standard car, to be fair. I've never had an issue. Track days, long journeys, it just puts up with anything, which is the amazing thing with a GTR.
They're a monster. Get out of this, I wanted to have a bit of a drive, sort of obviously driving the standard car to here. Have a go in obviously a much newer track edition with virtually every modification known to man that Litchfield can do.
Yeah, there's more that can go. I mean, they're running some of them at now 2,000 horsepower, aren't they?
Yeah.
But I think that's like total gearbox and engine rebuild. But
I said to Tom that I had one that was I think 900 horsepower, and it was just crazy.
They reckon the sweet spot's like 700, 750. But I mean, even the standard one's good power, isn't it? Good fun.
I still think it feels quick enough. But we were saying on the way, it just feels it's almost too easy fast. Like it feels like there's lots going on around you, but you're just sat there sort of like not having to do anything at all.
Yeah,
and the car's ballistic.
The big thing was on the last one was the gearbox update. Yeah, it just makes it a bit quicker, a bit cleaner
and smoother.
Yeah, smoother, because they are rough, aren't they, when you start them up?
Like I say, very clunky. Like similar, really. I know you like your Porsches to a GT3. You get loads of like clunking from the back, which you get in all the GT3 RS models.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. I think the nice thing about these cars is just, I think anyone can drive them as well. You don't have to be super skilled to get, you know, an enjoyable level of performance out of it. This is actually the basic mode, so you can run in this on 95 RON. And basically this is I call it the Ralphie mode, which is my son. It's the pop and bang mode. It's the noisy mode, just for sort of travelling to track days. And then you've got mode 2, which will run on 97 RON. And then you've got mode 3, which would be 97 to 100 RON, and it just builds up the performance. And then mode 4 is basically traction, everything off, and you can run ethanol and whatever you want on that
Even
mode.
with traction off, these they don't really step out of line, do they? They've got that much grip.
I've really never had it step out, and I've, you know, tried a lot.
Yeah.
The four-wheel drive system's just unbelievable on it.
It just constantly, I always find with these, they just feel like they want to straighten up all the time. Like, even when you go down really bumpy country, greasy lanes, where normally a lot of the cars we sell, you'd be hanging on for dear life to keep the back end in. It just steps in all the time. Like, you can feel everything working. I think Tom knows more about all the geeky details with it, but I think it's something to do with all the brakes on the traction control help keep all the car in a straight line.
Level,
but it just hooks up and goes.
It really does, yeah. It's unbelievable performance. Another thing you find as well, the sort of probably like a bit like an F1 car with not got loads of aero, but when you are going into corners faster, it just grips even better. Do you know what I mean? You feel better at speed going around the corners, and it's the smile it puts on your face is just unbelievable.
So we've been out in the R35. I took Dan out, or Dan took me out in the end because I wanted to get his opinion as well. We've been and seen Adam. He's got a tuned one, slightly newer, very different angle. What I love about this is the fact that it's completely stock, it's low owners, it's low mileage, it's exactly as it was intended to be. But what is the answer? Do you go for a standard one? Do you go for a modified one? It's a very subjective and very personal question.
They're both good. I mean, I'd go in between, like, I think stage 1 with a wide pipe, so you get the noise and just a little bit extra power was the benchmark. But then I also have seen so many other people that have bought them that have done that, and then they just start down the slippery slope of going stage 2, stage 4, stage 4.25, stage 4.5, and then ripping the engine out and doing a full stage 5 forged engine. So I've seen some frightening invoices.
So what we would say is, what we probably will agree is, buy the best car you can, maybe buy a standard or very close to standard car.
You can put your stamp on it. Then,
put your stamp on it. And let's be honest, buying it this way, I'd like to say, probably the best investment future potential.
Yep.
So, what I will say is, as always, like, share and subscribe, but down in the comments, let us know what you think, which way would you go, and as always, try and help us make content for the future.
See you next time.
Thank you.